All right, hello and welcome to this training. As you can see from the title, what we're going to be covering today is the core of dangerous confidence. And as you can see from the overview, what we're going to be talking about more specifically is first, the nature of confidence, the core framework, state engineering, social mastery, the review, and your action items for the day or the next few days. So without further ado, let's get started and talk about the nature of confidence. So confidence isn't some form of a magic trick or luck or something you're either born with or doomed to live without. Confidence is really a skill. And honestly, like any skill, it's built brick, by rep, action by action. You see, the people that seem unshakable to you are not really, you know, they're not some kind of different species or anything like that. They've just put in the work to basically wire their nervous system to handle fear, to act in spite of uncertainty, and to build proof for themselves over time. Once you start to see confidence as basically a system that you can build rather than some kind of a mystery that only a chosen few inherit, everything will shift for you and the entire game will change in your favor. Now, a lot of people believe that confidence is a feeling that you wait for before you actually act, and that's completely backwards. Confidence is the result of acting without it, right? Waiting until you feel ready is exactly how months, years, even decades just really slip away. And the person who jumps before they feel certain becomes certain because they jumped. Meanwhile, the ones who wait, they just feel stuck and stay stuck. That's why the people you know and you look up to always seem so far ahead. They moved before they were ready. And that movement, those reps, are what created the confidence that you now admire. So once you really get that confidence is built rather than gifted, you realize your focus really has to shift from emotion to execution. And that's where the power is. And the start of the whole confidence problem is really fear, which is fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being seen as, not enough. And listen, these fears are totally normal, but when you don't check them, they basically freeze you right where you stand. And the real damage isn't the fear itself, it's the avoidance it creates. Every time you back away, you basically teach your brain that the fear was valid and that retreat keeps you safe. And that's why really so many people shrink over time instead of expand. They keep reinforcing weakness by basically retreating. Now, fear creates patterns. The more you avoid, the deeper those patterns get, the deeper the ruts get, and the harder it is to really steer out. And that's why your past avoidance shows up today as hesitation. It's literally been trained into you. So the only way to really break that cycle is to interrupt it. Now, that interruption doesn't magically erase fear, but it does prove that fear isn't fatal. And so each time you override avoidance, you basically break that rut and carve a new path, one that teaches your brain that safety lives in action, not retreat. And so if fear is the lock, action is the key, and evidence is the door that it opens. That's the combination. Real confidence doesn't come from hyping yourself up in the mirror for 5 minutes or pretending that you're fearless. It comes from evidence. Every time you face discomfort and win, even in the tiniest ways, you basically log proof that you can handle it, and that proof compounds fast. One rep leads to another, and before you know it, the thing that used to terrify you feels totally normal. And those little wins become receipts in your inner bank account, and every deposit increases your spending power in the world. So you can think of it like keeping score. You don't need to brag to others, but you do need to track your own wins. When your brain starts doubting you, you can now literally point to the receipts and you can say, I've done this before and I can do it again. And that's unshakable because it's actually built on real proof. And the wild part is the more evidence you stack, the less effort every new action takes. And so what once felt terrifying now becomes routine, and what once seemed impossible really becomes just another repetition. So that snowball effect is why confidence often looks like sudden transformation when it's actually slow, steady accumulation, like almost any real achievement. So once you see that evidence is the real source of confidence, you start to understand why repetition matters so much. You can't just build confidence through one-off moments. Doing something once can prove a point, sure, but doing it repeatedly is what really rewires your nervous system. Now, confidence isn't built on big bursts, it's built on rhythm, a steady rhythm that basically reshapes who you are at the core. And if you only act occasionally, fear will keep winning because it's scored more points. But if you keep showing up, then fear starts to lose its grip and confidence takes its place as your default. So you can think of confidence like a muscle you train. You wouldn't expect to really bench 100 kilos or 220 pounds after one gym session, right? So don't expect to feel unstoppable after facing one fear. The reps matter, the sets matter, the daily exposure, that's what grows the muscle. With every rep, you basically stack another brick in your wall of confidence. And over time, that wall becomes so solid that no passing doubt can really knock it down. And that's when people look at you and wonder, how are they so fearless? When in reality, they just don't see the reps. They just see the fortress that you've built brick by brick. And then once you've put those reps, something really powerful starts to shift your sense of who you actually are. So true confidence isn't about really faking it until you make it. It's more so about doing it until you become it. Each rep, each receipt, each moment of courage, it all shifts your self-image. And suddenly you don't see yourself as that timid version from your past, but rather you see yourself as someone who does the hard things. And that shift in identity is what makes confidence sustainable. Because if you only hype yourself up, the feeling will fade. But if your identity changes, the confidence sticks because now it's literally who you are. So when your actions line up with your desired identity, confidence just becomes automatic. You don't need to pump yourself up. You're just being who you believe yourself to be. And identity works like an anchor. Once it's set, storms might rock the boat, but you don't drift very far. And so, sure, you might feel nervous sometimes, but you snap back to center pretty quickly because your anchor holds. Now, identity gives you stability, but something else must make it feel alive, which is energy. Confidence isn't just mental, it's physical too. It's your body, your breath, your tone. All of these little things shape how you feel and how people feel you. And so think about it. A slouched posture, shallow breathing, low energy, all of these create hesitation. But having an upright posture, deep breath, strong tone, that creates a calm confidence. And energy is really about commanding your body to support your mind so they reinforce each other instead of fighting. And when you carry that energy, people feel it before you can even speak. It's basically silent confidence that radiates certainty. And the cool thing is, energy can actually be engineered. Quick movements, sharper breaths, even just speaking louder can flip your nervous system from anxious to alert. And when you activate your body, you literally hack your psychology. So when you understand that confidence is really built through courage, ownership, repetition, and evidence, you're now standing on solid ground. You've got a system that you can actually follow. And what comes next is where it all starts to click. You get a clear framework to shape your behavior, stack proof, and become the kind of person who radiates confidence naturally. Because this is where we break it down to its core, the simple but powerful model that holds the keys to mastering the entire process. So let's talk about the core framework. Now, the core framework basically distills confidence into 4 pillars that honestly anyone can apply: courage, ownership, repetition, and evidence. These 4 are the practical levers you can pull every single day. Think of them like the 4 corners of a foundation. If one is weak, the whole thing will wobble. But when all 4 of them are solid, you stand unshakable, no matter what tries to knock you over. So confidence always begins with courage, because without courage, you never even take the first step. And listen, courage isn't the absence of fear or some kind of fearlessness. It's the decision to act even while it's there in your chest. Every single breakthrough in confidence starts right there, in that moment where your hands might be shaking, but you still do it anyway. And you don't wait for fear to leave, you just move while it's screaming in your ear. And that tiny act of defiance, right there, that's the seed of every confident identity you'll ever build. And so the way you actually build courage is by exposing yourself over and over to the things that trigger fear. It sounds pretty simple, but that's how it works. Like if starting conversations terrifies you, the path isn't really avoiding them, it's stacking them one by one until your nervous system adapts. Exposure shrinks fear in direct proportion to how often you lean into it. See, courage isn't about huge cinematic gestures, it's about normalization. That first cold call might feel like death. The 5th feels survivable. The 50th feels totally normal and almost feels like a game. The act doesn't change, but your internal response does, because your body now recognizes it as safe. And here's the cool part. Courage in one area spills over into others, Because once you've trained yourself to speak up in meetings, for example, it suddenly becomes easier to ask for what you want in relationships or try a new skill at the gym. Courage compounds across domains, and that's what makes it such a powerful entry point. Now, once you've taken that leap of courage, the next question is, what do you actually do with the outcome? That's where ownership comes in. Confidence dies the moment you outsource responsibility. So ownership is about claiming full responsibility for your choices, your behavior, your results, your growth, everything in general. It's the absolute refusal to play victim or sit around waiting for someone else to validate you. Now, this isn't about blaming yourself for everything. It's about reclaiming control. Because as long as the power sits outside of you, your confidence will always be fragile. So when something goes wrong, ownership means asking, all right, what part of this is mine to control and how do I fix it next time? That one shift alone and that one question stops you from feeling helpless and turns you into a problem solver. Now, ownership also means not waiting for applause. You decide your worth based on your actions, not on the approval of others. And honestly, that independence makes you untouchable because you're no longer chained to someone else's opinion. When you own the outcomes of your actions, you claim power over your own story. Even failure becomes useful then because now it's feedback in your hands instead of a verdict that's passed down by someone else. So courage gets you moving, ownership keeps you grounded, but repetition, that's the one that burns it all into your system. See, confidence isn't built on like one or two isolated wins. Doing something once is nice, but doing it 100 times, that's transformative. Repetition is what turns fear into familiarity. Your nervous system doesn't care about motivational speeches, it only understands patterns. So if you repeat the hard things enough times, the fear signal fades and confidence becomes the new normal. This is what the science calls desensitization. Basically, what scares you today won't scare you after enough repetitions. Your brain literally resets its baseline based on what it sees again and again. Now, repetition also builds momentum. Every time you act, it becomes just a little bit easier to act again until eventually it actually feels weird not to do it. And so that's when action starts fueling confidence and confidence starts fueling more action. It becomes a reinforcing feedback loop. And it's not just about tolerating fear. Repetition builds competence, and competence itself breeds confidence because once you're skilled, the fear of being found out really fades away and you know you can perform and doubt just loses its footing. But here's the thing, repetition on its own isn't really enough. To make it meaningful, you got to track your results and collect the proof. And this is where confidence gets locked in through evidence. Evidence is the receipts you gather that basically prove you actually are who you claim to be. Without evidence, confidence is just talk. But with evidence, it's undeniable. Every win, every rep, every action, it's a deposit in your internal bank account. The more you deposit, the richer your confidence becomes. And so keep a mental or some kind of a physical record of your wins. You can write down the calls you made or the workouts you crushed or the speeches you gave, the fears you faced in general. This log will now become your ammunition when doubt tries to creep back in. And listen, evidence doesn't lie. Numbers don't lie. In this case, your feelings might fluctuate, but the data is solid. If you've done something 20 times before, you can do it the 21st, no matter how you feel that day. And here's the magic part. Evidence gives you conviction. Once you've got the receipts, you really don't need to hype yourself up anymore. You've got the proof, and proof shuts doubt down instantly. So you won't need to look at yourself in the mirror and try to make yourself confident or give yourself some speeches or affirmations. Your affirmations are the receipts that you have, the evidence and the proof that you have of the things you've done. And so with courage, ownership, repetition, and evidence all working together, you've now got a real system. One that basically turns confidence from something you wish for into something you can build. The beauty of core is its simplicity. You don't have to overthink it. You just need to apply those 4 levers every single day. Now, even with a framework this solid, there will still be moments when your body and emotions basically betray you. You'll have the proof, you'll have the reps, the receipts, but right there in the heat of the moment, your energy can drop and hesitation can creep back in. And that's why the next step is really learning how to deliberately engineer your state so you can flip confidence on instantly, no matter what kind of pressure you're under. So let's talk about state engineering. So here's the thing. No matter how much courage, ownership, repetition, and evidence you've built, your state in the moment can totally make or break you. And so confidence isn't just something that lives in your head, it's expressed through your body, your tone, your breathing, and your energy. State engineering is basically the art of deliberately shifting your physiology and psychology so when that moment comes, you perform at your absolute best. Now, without this skill, even if you've got all the proof in the world, you might still stumble because your nervous system can drag you straight back into hesitation. But when you master this, you basically become that person who can literally flip confidence on at will. So let's start with the body because it basically leads the mind way more than most people want to admit. When you slump your shoulders, breathe shallowly, and drop your gaze, your nervous system reads that as submission. And guess what? That instantly bleeds into your confidence. But when you open your chest, stand tall, breathe deep, you're sending biological signals of confidence and safety. And that shift doesn't just change how other people see you, it literally changes how you yourself feel. And so your breath is your first switch. Slow, controlled breathing calms your system while sharp, deep inhales wake it up. You can use either depending on the state you need, like before a high pressure conversation, 2 minutes of deep belly breathing can actually steady your nerves. Before a sales call or a big pitch, 3 sharp inhales and strong exhales can flip you into a more alert state very quickly. So another tip here is posture. Stand or sit like you own the room. Chin level, shoulders back, weight balanced. Those small tweaks send massive signals to your brain that you're safe and in control. If you do it often enough, it becomes second nature. And before long, that posture automatically cues your brain into confidence. Now, movement is the secret hack most people forget. Physical motion unlocks psychological motion. When you feel frozen, shake your body out, pace the room, do push-ups, anything. Movement interrupts paralysis and injects energy. Tony Robbins used to say, and I guess still says, motion creates emotion. And so shaping the body is just the first layer. Your inner dialogue and your focus, that's what decides whether you rise or shrink in the moment. So what you focus on is literally what you feel. If you zero in on all possible rejections, your state will mirror fear. But if you focus on the outcome you actually want or the value you're bringing into the situation, your nervous system fires up with drive instead of hesitation. And the movie playing in your head is what directs the movie of your performance. So ask yourself, what's my target here? Like before you step in, narrowing your attention on what you actually want to create keeps fear from hijacking your focus and keeps you zeroed in on the actual target. And the words you feed yourself matter more than you think. Saying I'm nervous reinforces nerves. Saying I'm ready reinforces readiness. And so both can feel true, but only one actually moves you forward. And the next one is using visualization, picturing yourself succeeding vividly, not as some fantasy, but as rehearsal. The brain can't tell much difference between imagined repetitions and real ones. So visualization actually primes you to perform more fluidly when it counts. Now, when your body and your mind finally sync up, the next level is about locking into a rhythm you can access consistently. So state engineering becomes reliable when you tie it to rituals. Athletes do this all the time. You've probably seen some of them clap their hands, listening to that one song, repeat a mantra right before stepping into the arena. The ritual itself becomes a trigger that flips the nervous system into performance mode. And when you build your own pre-action ritual, your body learns to associate certain actions with confidence. So one of the tips here is to use something physical, an anchor, like tapping your chest, snapping your fingers, or clenching your fist, and pair it with moments when you actually feel powerful. If you do it often enough, that anchor alone can cue your confident state. The next one is music. Create a playlist that dials you straight into the energy you want. Your physiology literally responds to rhythm and tempo, so music becomes one of the fastest ways to shift your state. And then there's language again. Short, charged phrases spoken with intensity. They only work though when you say them with real energy, when you actually believe them. Whispering them half-heartedly doesn't actually cut it. So once your rituals are actually set, you'll find you can shift your state faster and more predictably. But here's the twist. Sometimes it's not about flipping a switch. It's about sustaining that state over long stretches, which means you've got to manage your energy holistically. So confidence isn't just about quick bursts. It's about stamina. Fatigue, poor nutrition, lack of recovery, they'll all drag you into low states no matter how mentally tough you feel you are. When your body is drained, your state collapses at the exact moment you need it most. And so that's why managing your energy through sleep, food, and movement is part of building unshakable confidence. So my first advice to you here is to master your sleep. Honestly, nothing sabotages confidence faster than exhaustion. Even the most trained performer will crack when they're running on fumes. And so rest isn't optional if you want to be in control of your state. The next one is fuel. Food literally alters your state. Heavy processed meals dull you. Clean fuel will sharpen you. Now, the next one is exercise. Training your body doesn't just make you strong, it gives you vitality. A strong, fit body absorbs stress with ease, while a weak one collapses under it. So when your physiology, psychology, rituals, and energy are all synced, you've got the full toolkit to engineer confidence on demand. That's when confidence stops being something you chase and becomes something you can summon. Now, with that ability to command your state, the next evolution is really bringing that energy into the room with people. Confidence doesn't just live in your body or your mind. It shows up in how you connect, communicate, and carry yourself socially. And that's where we move into social mastery, where inner certainty transforms into outward influence. So let's talk about social mastery. Here's where it all comes together. Confidence that never leaves your head is incomplete. Real confidence, the kind that sticks, gets tested and proven in front of people. Social mastery is about translating that inner certainty into outward influence. It's the skill of walking into a room and owning it, but without arrogance. It's about speaking clearly without trying too hard and connecting with people in a way that commands respect naturally. And without this layer, confidence just becomes self-contained bravado. It folds under pressure, but with it, confidence becomes magnetic. So you know how people decide how to treat you within seconds of meeting you? That decision happens long before you even open your mouth. Presence speaks before you do. And so it's your posture, your eye contact, your energy. If you stand small, eyes down, shoulders caved in, people will assume smallness. But if you hold yourself upright, look people in the eye, and move with intention, they read strength. They respond not to your words first, but to your signals. One of the best tips here is using eye contact. Eye contact is such a simple but insanely powerful signal. Holding it calmly without darting away tells people you're actually secure. Breaking it too soon signals insecurity. So you don't have to stare anyone down, but just linger long enough to show you're not hiding. And then there's your voice, the tone, the pace, the volume. If you're speaking too fast or too soft, that can scream nervousness. If a steady pace and a clear tone, that projects composure. So you don't need to fake authority. Just slow down, breathe, and let your clarity do the work. Now, once your presence sets the tone, the next level is connection. Confidence isn't really about bulldozing people. It's about building rapport while staying solid in your own frame. People are drawn to those who listen as much as they speak, who validate without shrinking, who engage without dominating. So listening is an underrated superpower. When you give someone your full attention, they feel seen, and that builds trust faster than any clever line. Real confidence doesn't fear silence, it uses it. You can acknowledge someone's point without surrendering yours. Saying, "I see what you mean," or "that makes sense," before adding your own perspective shows understanding. Insecure people have to win every sentence. Confident people can absorb and redirect. And don't underestimate stories. Stories bypass resistance. When you share experiences instead of lecturing, people will engage instinctively. They remember you. But let's be honest, not every interaction is smooth, so connection alone isn't enough. You've also got to be able to handle friction. So the way you handle conflict really reveals the depth of your confidence. The insecure either explode or collapse. The confident stay calm. They assert boundaries. They hold composure. Conflict is inevitable, but it doesn't have to shake you. When you can disagree without losing your center, people recognize your authority instantly. Now, your boundaries are drawn in tone, in posture, and in clarity. Saying "that doesn't work for me" with a calm firmness is way more powerful than shouting. Boundaries don't need volume, they need conviction. And listen, the ability to stay calm while someone's trying to rattle you is rare and shows strength. When you don't react, their power dissolves, and you don't have to outshout them. You just have to outlast them. Now, beyond conflict, this is where your confidence really shines, in your ability to lead interactions instead of following them passively. Now, social mastery is leadership in micro form. It's being able to steer conversations, set the tone, and move people emotionally. You don't need some kind of a title to lead. You just need certainty expressed through your behavior. People naturally gravitate towards the one who carries certainty because certainty reduces their uncertainty. So leaders initiate, they start conversations, they make introductions, they break the ice. Waiting for someone else to act just sends one message: passivity. Initiating sends the opposite one: authority. Every interaction has a frame. It's like an unspoken set of rules that basically decide how things will unfold. The confident one sets the frame. For example, if you enter a meeting with a clear agenda, you instantly become the driver. If you show up waiting to be told what's happening, you're a passenger. And so, just to be clear, influence isn't manipulation, it's alignment. Confident people lead others towards outcomes that benefit everyone because they believe they can move people without forcing them. Now, leadership builds authority, but real social mastery lives in the details, the small, consistent behaviors that quietly broadcast certainty over time. Now, small repeated social behaviors are what reinforce confidence long term. Dramatic gestures might catch attention, but habits build reputation. And so, greeting people by name or giving them a firm handshake or making eye contact when you enter a room, pausing before you speak, these are all micro signals that stack up over time. So, they may seem minor, but together they create an aura of steadiness and reliability that people feel immediately. And they're the invisible threads of your social presence and the reason people describe you as confident without even realizing it's these habits that are shaping their perception. So one of them is remembering and using someone's name. It's such a small thing, but it's very rare. It shows you're actually there, paying attention, and that you value that person enough to actually remember them. And saying someone's name gives them that subtle hit of recognition, and over time, those moments stack up into genuine rapport. Another one is pauses. Their power in disguise. When you pause on purpose, it shows you're not afraid of silence, and it forces people to lean in. The insecure ramble to fill up space. The confident let silence do part of the talking. And that makes every word you speak land heavier because you're not rushing. And the next one is consistency. Confidence doesn't come from random highlights. It comes from your rhythm. Being punctual, following through, showing up the same way every time. All of that builds predictability, and predictability breeds trust. Over time, people don't even question your confidence anymore because it's proven through consistency. You don't have to explain it. And when you master presence, connection, conflict, leadership, and those subtle habits, your confidence evolves. It moves from internal to external, from private to public. People don't just sense your confidence anymore, they experience it in every interaction. But here's the real full circle moment. True mastery doesn't stop with others. It doesn't even stop with the domains you've conquered. The most powerful confidence isn't built on applause or titles. It's built on the way you see yourself when no one's actually watching. When the room's empty and the noise is gone, that's when you find out what kind of confidence you've really built. If you can look at yourself and trust that person fully, that's the confidence no one can actually take away. That's the kind that carries you through every single season of your life. So with that being said, let's go over the review. We talked about the nature of confidence, the core framework, state engineering, social mastery, the review, and your action items for the day or the next few days. First, starting today, engineer your confidence on purpose. Don't wait for motivation, create it. Before every meaningful interaction or challenge, take 90 seconds to breathe, adjust your posture, and set your focus. That simple act trains your nervous system to associate preparation with performance. And if you do it enough times, your confidence stops being random. It becomes a reflex. Now, the next one is to apply. Don't overthink this. Use the core framework every single day. Pick one area that scares you and run it through the sequence. Courage to act, ownership of outcome, repetition of behavior, evidence of progress. Track it, write down what you did, how it felt, and what proof you earned. Watching that list grow builds a feedback loop of certainty that no pep talk can actually replace. And then finally, bring your confidence into the world. Each day, engage with one new person. Greet, compliment, or strike up a brief conversation and notice how your energy shifts. The more you socialize with intention, the faster your confidence will multiply. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, comment below to let me know what you would like to see next, and subscribe to the channel for more of these trainings Now, if you want this document along with this training, make sure to join the free community from the first link in the description. And if you're an entrepreneur, a creator, or a professional, and you want to work one-on-one with me, then make sure to book a call from the second link in the description. With that being said, thank you for being here, and I'm going to see you in the next one.